Just a brief note before I begin the episode. While recording, I had my PS5 turned on to the dashboard, and the ambient music was playing. I didn't think my microphone would pick that up, but while editing, I noticed it. It was all throughout the episode. No amount of editing can take it out. So that's what that noise is you hear the entire episode. This week I'm covering one of the darkest horror films of all times. This is basically Saw set at Christmas. I'm of course talking about Home Alone. Yeah, there's a fan theory that says Kevin McAllister is actually a young John Kramer who is Jigsaw. Some things don't add up about that, but it's fun to think about. Now, Home Alone was released in 1990. It was directed by Chris Columbus, and it was written and produced by John Hughes. Both of those are huge names, by the way. It stars Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, and Catherine O'Hara. And if you've never heard of this movie, that's a massive rock you're living under. That big rock in Australia that people think is a mountain. Yeah, you're living under that one. Because it's one of those classics that everyone's heard of, if not seen. You've seen it. If you say you haven't seen it, you're lying. You've seen it. That being said, obviously there will be spoilers in this one. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Disney+. Sometimes in these episodes I have notes. Usually there's like 2 or 3. This time I have 11. So let's get started. Alright, first off, I grew up with this movie. As you can probably imagine by what I was saying a minute ago, if you've never seen this. So I grew up with this movie. From a really young age, early as I could remember. I can't even remember the first time I watched this movie. It was so long ago. I was so young. And when I was a kid, I thought Kevin McAllister was like the coolest kid. Because I've watched the movie at the beginning. His family's being so mean to him. This kid's so cool. He's not doing anything. Why are they being so awful to this kid? And I watch it now as an adult. I'm like, wow, that kid's a brat. I would have locked him in the attic myself. I would have done the same thing, Catherine O'Hara. I haven't seen this movie in like a decade or two. I don't know. It's been a really long time. I said I grew up watching this movie, and I did. But because I saw it so long ago, there's things that I never really thought about. There's just things that happen. I never really understood, like, what was going on. It's just, oh, it's time for this. This happens because this happens. Or whatever, It's like, you've seen it so long, so many times, that you don't really think about why things are happening, in what order, and the meaning behind things. This is one of those movies. I'm watching it this time, I'm like, oh, I'll get to some of those. And, first off, Kevin McAllister is a brat, and he's spoiled rotten, and it's clear, it's very obvious that the McAllisters are very rich. I mean, look at the house. Just the house alone shows that they're rich. But then, also, there's like a family of 13, at least, and they're just casually flying to Paris for Christmas, during the Christmas holiday season. Those are not cheap tickets, even for 1990. So, with that in mind, this kid grew up. I mean, he's 8 years old at this point, and he's lived his entire life in this very rich environment. Of course he's going to be a spoiled brat, because he's probably used to getting what he wants. He's probably used to always getting the center of attention, and now he's in a house full of other people. And, actually, no, there's 15 other people in this house, because that's what Catherine O'Hara says. Like, there are 15 other people in this house, and you're the only one causing a scene. Because he's used to being the center of attention. Oh, I made a note about this. He has a very boring taste in pizza. All the pizza flavors out there. So many different kind of pizzas out there. His favorite is cheese. That's like saying no topping. Because it's pizza. There's cheese on it automatically. You're putting toppings on the cheese, and his favorite pizza is a cheese pizza. Like, if your favorite pizza is a cheese pizza, I'm sorry, but that is boring. It's like people who say their favorite ice cream is vanilla. I mean, there's a reason an unmodded version of Skyrim is called the vanilla version. I feel like I just said something controversial. If I'm canceled, it's for this. So, there's a series of things that happen. Like, growing up, I'm always thinking, like, after I'm an adult, I'm like, how do you just leave your kid at home? But there's a series of things that happen. They don't just forget their kid at home. Like, everything had to happen just the right way. And I made a list of some of them. Well, for starters, it starts the night before. When Buzz... Oh, I will say, Buzz is a bully. Buzz is a bully, and Kevin's a brat. This whole family is messed up. So Bully does the thing. I mean, wow. Buzz does the thing with the pizza. Like, oh, here it is. It's coming back up. And then Kevin pushes him, and it knocks the milk over onto the tickets. And his father is wiping up the counter, and it shows, there's a shot that I always missed until now. It shows him throwing away the plane ticket accidentally. That's the first thing. The second thing, actually, the power going out has two main things, reasons for happening. I never even caught this until now. For starters, it makes them late. That's obvious, because it turns the alarm clocks off, and then it's flashing 12 o'clock, and they wake up, we missed the plane! Or like, we slept in! Or whatever they shout. And so that's the first thing. Hi, me again in editing. Notice the lack of ambience. So, while editing, I realized I forgot to mention the second reason the power going out is important to the story. It knocks out the phone lines. Because I noticed people always saying, like, why don't they just call him? Well, there's a line in there saying where the guy fixing the power was like, your phone line's going to be out for in the next few days. So that's why they didn't just call him. The phone's out. The power went out. They're late. So last minute, they're like rushing. 15 people. It shows them flying through the house, and everything's a panic. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria. So on top of that, Catherine O'Hara asks the daughter or cousin or whatever, oldest cousin. I don't know who's who. All I know is Buzz is the brother, and I know there's cousins and siblings. I don't know who's who. Anyway, she asks, like, I'm gonna say older sister, to do a head count. And so she counts everyone, but there's a neighbor kid walking around the airport, the airport vans, the shuttles or whatever, and he's annoying, and he's just asking a bunch of questions. He's another brat, but he's a plot-driven brat, because she counts him as Kevin, because his back's turned and he's wearing kind of similar stuff to Kevin. So she's like, 9, and he like puts his hand on him and like counts him, and then a couple minutes later, Catherine O'Hara's like, "Did you do a head count?" And she's like, "Yes," and she like says the numbers of everybody, and then in a portrait and a poetry. So the plane ticket's gone. They're rushing, and they've counted everybody, that even if they weren't actually all there. So the reason that the throwing away of the plane ticket is significant is, had they not thrown that away, they would have been like, "Oh wait, we have an extra plane ticket," and they would have known right away. So that was an important detail that I missed this entire time. And, you know, with 15 people and everyone running around, you're not going to notice, like, one person. Plus, like, again, like I said, he was counted. What my question is, and it's never addressed in the movie, and it doesn't always show the family in Paris. In fact, you very rarely see, I think there's, like, one scene where you see the kids, see the family in Paris. Did that older sister ever get in trouble? Because, like, well, you said he was there. You did a head count, and you said he was there. It's like, I swear I counted. Like, yeah, I wonder if that happened. At some point, somebody had to have brought it up. Like, you did a head count, and you said he was there. I'm sure it came up. My headcanon. I have a lot of headcanons for this movie, and one of them I'll say at the end. It's not really a headcanon because obviously it's not canon, but it's alternate reality canon. I'll get to that. Actually, I'm only on the 3rd. Okay, Kid Cosmic. Uncle sucks. Yes, the uncle sucks. There's so many reasons. The Uncle Frank, I think his name is, and I could just make a separate list on all the reasons that he sucks. I just put Uncle Sucks because I couldn't list them all. Well, I'm just going to name a few. Like, on the plane, he was like... Well, he was telling his wife to steal all the forks. And then, like, the stewardess comes up and is like, "Would you like a refill?" And he's like, yes, fill it up. Fill it up! Like, snapping at the stewardess. It's like, while he's stealing their stuff. Like, ah. And when they realize Kevin's gone, he's like, "Oh, if it makes you feel any better, I left my reading glasses at home." It's like, that's not relatable. Like, that's not the same thing. You left your reading glasses, she left her kid. Oh yeah, that's totally the same thing. You could totally relate to what she's going through right now, Uncle Frank. So, the Angels with Filthy Souls, that fake movie within this movie, I love, it could have just been a throwaway joke, and normally, the way John Hughes and Chris Columbus, like I say, they're big names for a reason, because everything they do is classic and amazing and everything and all that. A reason I'm saying that here is they use the same joke twice in the same movie, and it works both times. They take, well, first off, they show you, like, whenever he first realizes he's home alone and he's watching this movie, he's like, "Guys, I'm eating junk and watching rubbish," stuff like that. And then it shows the whole scene, like, "Keep the change, you filthy animal." And then when he orders pizza, and then he uses that clip on the pizza delivery guy, like, "Stop by the door," or whatever, like, what all the quotes he says, and he, like, that would have been really hard on a VCR, like, rewinding it to just the right spot. So that takes talent, I guess. And then they use it again later, whenever Marv was sticking his head, when it was like, not sticking his head, he's like outside the door, and this time Kevin puts firecrackers right there. So, like, they do the same joke twice. They do it differently enough that, like, it works both times. But I want to get back to the pizza delivery guy. He really should have called the cops. Like, realistically, like in real life, if that were to happen, he would have called the cops. He would have told somebody, like his supervisor, like, hey, this just happened to me. Or he would have told a coworker, and somebody would have called the cops and gone to the house, and the movie would have been over. Oh, that's why he didn't call the cops. To quote Pitch Meeting, so the movie could happen. But yeah, he really should have called the cops. It's not that him calling the cops would have ended the movie, because Catherine O'Hara has the police go to the house at one point, and like they knock on the door, and Kevin's freaked out and doesn't answer it. And so he's like, "No one's home." So like they could have done that, or like had like a whole running joke with the police keep coming to the house, and they're like, "No one's home. I don't know why y'all keep sending us out here." Oh yeah, I said not enough time to do everything. All right, so the wet bandits, Harry and Marv, they say Kevin overhears them outside his window saying, "We're coming back at 9 p.m. It'll be dark," and all that. So like, not only are they punctual, because they get there at the stroke of 9 o'clock, but he's at the church, and I counted, it rings, the bell rings 8 times, so it's 8 o'clock. And so he runs home, leaves the church, and then starts setting up his traps. There is not enough time. There's 1 hour, and not only just to set up all his traps, but he also draws a map of the house, like kind of like a war plan. Just that alone would have taken that whole hour. And so I'm not buying it. I don't think it's believable. This movie is debunked. I can't believe they lied to us. But yeah, they would have been dead anyway. Like, before they even enter the house, they absolutely would have been dead. There's no way they would have survived all the stuff that happened to them. I mean, just like Harry is Joe Pesci and Marv is Daniel Stern, I believe. I'm not looking at my notes right now. I'm literally can't find my phone. Oh, that's the bright thing next to me. Okay, I was looking on the wrong side. And I was like, I see a bright light on the other side of me, but that's my microphone. Nope, it was my phone. I don't know if I've said this in the podcast. That probably didn't make sense. My new microphone, the one that sounds really good, it lights out. Like, the whole thing is this one big light. It is really cool. I should post a picture at some point. I think I did. Anyway, so Harry was outside. Actually, they were both outside. The moment I think he definitely wouldn't have survived, when he falls backwards on the icy steps. He lands on his neck and does a backflip. Yeah, just if you watch that movie, put the GTA 5 wasted in grayscale right there, the sound effect. And then with Marv, it's when he falls down the basement stairs. He crashes down, and then the crowbar lands on his head. I think he would have been dead right then, if not shattered. Every bone in his body would have just been, because he went down hard. And then with the crowbar just slamming on his head, those things are heavy. I dropped it on my foot once, and I think I almost broke my foot. There was a big bruise on there for a week. It was not fun. So imagine dropping that on your head. But then he goes inside. He manages to get inside, and then he pulls on what he thinks is a light, but it was a trap. And this iron falls down the shaft and hits him in the head. Leaves in the rest of his movie, he's got an injury from that. That would have crushed his skull in. when Harry pulls on, no, when he opens the door, a flamethrower lights his head on fire. And I used to think it was unrealistic that he just stands there and lets it happen, but I've had enough accidents happen where, like, I'm just standing there in shock. While the thing's happening. I've had that happen with hot water. Like, I burned my hand on this extremely hot water. It's like 250 degrees. And, like, I just sit there freaking out, holding my hand under this water. And they were like, just move your hand! Yeah, like, I got blisters from that. Like, that, it did. Like, I got, severe, just from that. Hot water. I got blisters all over my hand. That, it ruined my hand for, a week. That was a long time ago. But these are flames. So I'm pretty sure, he would have had, third-degree burns. All you see is little char marks on his head. They just, yeah. But the moment I think they both would have been dead for sure is with the paint cans. Those would have, at the very least, shattered their skulls. So, yeah. As I said, this movie's dark. Hi, editing again. Notice lack of ambient. You know, this ambient thing really has messed me up because now it's exposing how many times I have to record extra parts in my episodes. This happens more often than you realize. It's kind of, just slip them into the episode and you can't even tell. But now, oh wait, actually, you know what? I can actually just, now I'm back on the home screen. Now you won't be able to tell the rest of the episode what I'm editing in. Anyway, there is one more thing that I forgot to add to this whole injury thing. Whenever Marv hits Harry with the crowbar because the tarantula is on him, he would have been dead from that too. You literally hear ribs cracking. And Harry just jumps up. You don't just jump up from something like that. Not from cracked ribs. But also, growing up, I thought that, I remember this movie mostly being the attempted break-in. But really, I literally checked the times, and I don't remember I should have written it down. But it only lasts 20 minutes. From the time they get to the house, the final time, and start trying to break in, to the time that the old guy stops them, it's roughly 20 minutes. So that is actually kind of surprising because that's all anyone really remembers is those, but it's only the last part of the movie. But it's fine. It builds up to that. Most of the movie isn't even about that. Sometimes if it's your first time watching it, I actually, you kind of forget about them, and they're oh, there they are, yeah, because it's about him being left home alone and how he copes with that. And he goes out and he buys groceries, and he befriends the shovel guy, and because his brother was he was a serial killer, and he's hiding the bodies in the salt. And he turns out, talking about another thing that I didn't catch until this time. Growing up, when you're a little kid, you don't really care about speaking moments. It's all about the action. That's probably why, for the longest time, I thought the slapstick parts were most of the film. Is because, you're not really into the dialogue scenes when you're a kid. So when it was Kevin and the old guy at the church, all I remember was, "That's my granddaughter over there, blah, 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 blah. You should go home now." And then it shows them at the end hugging, and I'm like, "Oh, look, there's his daughter. Why are they making a big deal about that?" And his granddaughter. And this time I'm actually listening to what he's saying, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm here watching her because I can't actually see her because my son hates me." And this whole dramatic backstory. And so, like, whenever you see them together at the end, it's like, it actually says so much without actually saying anything. And so that's the brilliance of Chris Columbus and John Hughes. Again, they easily could have made, like, tacked on an extra ending where, like, it shows him calling his son. It's like, "Hey, son, I just called to say I'm sorry." And then, like, done all of that and done, like, a whole Return of the King not wanting to ending. But no, it's a really quick shot. It tells you so much more, and it's a really impactful moment. And it's like, oh, wow, he called his son, and they're, like, spending Christmas together, and he's, like, hugging his granddaughter, and it's a nice moment that they easily could have ruined and, like, over-sapified it. If that make sense? Did I just invent a word? This movie spawned, like, 25 sequels, roughly, give or take. And I'm not gonna lie, I like them all. To varying degrees. I'm not saying every single one of them is this masterful classic. 1 and 2 are huge classics that I love so much. The third one, I understand why people didn't like, because it was a different actor. And, it was lesser quality, but like, I still really liked it. It took the story in a different direction, different kid. He wasn't really left home alone. It, like, changed it, because in the first one, his family goes to Paris, he's left home alone. The second one, he gets on the wrong plane, he goes to New York while his family goes to Florida. The third one, he's not really left home alone. I mean, technically he is, but, like, for an afternoon while his family is in town. And in the fourth one, it's back to the McAllisters, but, like, not really, because it's supposed to take place between the Christmas between the first and second movies, even though that doesn't make sense, because in Home Alone he's 8, and I'm pretty sure in Home Alone 2 he's 9, but it's supposed to take place in the summer between. Not the summer between, that would make sense. In the Christmas between, they're trying to say it was like, okay, it would only make sense if in Home Alone 2 he says, "I'm 10. And throughout that movie they do say last year, like what happened last year. So that would make sense, but I don't remember if that happens in the second one. But that one is not that great. I admit, like, I still like it. It's just that one's my least favorite Home Alone movie. The Home Alone 4. And again, he's not really home alone. And then Home Alone 5 was a brother and sister, different family. That one I actually really liked. It was different, and it was interesting. I don't remember too much about that one either. I watched all of them back to back like 10 years ago. And I was like, yeah. At the time, I hated the other two, like 4 and 5. And now, looking back, it's like, they weren't so bad. And then, of course, there's Home Sweet Home Alone, which is the new one. And it's back in the McAllister universe. Kevin's not in it, and it just kind of reinforces the thing about Kevin being a brat. Because Buzz is a cop in this one. And okay, Kevin being a brat causes this kid to have to keep dealing with the issue, because Buzz says that ever since they left him home alone, every Christmas since they became adults, he calls in a kid left home alone, and so it's become like a tradition. So like whenever this kid gets called, someone calls in that this kid is left home alone, Buzz is like, no, I do not fall for that. That is my brother Kevin playing a prank. So that explains why the cops aren't involved in that one. But that just goes to show, like, Kevin's brattiness causes his other kid to suffer. Get it together, Kevin. I actually, I looked, and Kevin would be 41 right now. Because you would think, let's look at Macaulay Culkin's age, but actually, they were not the same age. I think Macaulay Culkin was like a couple years older than Kevin says in the movie. I don't remember. I just did like a quick search. I was trying to look at something else unrelated. It was just a while, but I don't know. Anyway, that one, I know a lot of people hated the new Home Alone, and I can see why, but I do like it because like the people were complaining that it focuses too much on the burglars. But I like that. It kind of changed the story. Like, instead of, they're like these, these stereotypical, cliche, comical burglars. They're just an ordinary husband and wife. And it's a very relatable reason why they're trying to break in to steal this thing. And they're not like these criminal masterminds. They're just ordinary people. And the second they realize what's going on, they drop the whole like burglar thing, and they actually clean up their own mess, and they become friends with the family. Like, if you haven't seen it yet, that one actually is a spoiler alert, because it's new enough that I don't think a whole lot of people have seen it. But yeah, the burglars become the good guys at the end. Actually, if anything, the kid is the bad guy in the new Home Alone, which I thought was a refreshing take, but everyone else hated it. It's like, no, this is a new take. This is kind of a new take on it. It's brilliant. Especially since he doesn't know why they're breaking in. He just knows they're breaking in, so he's trying to protect his house. So it's like, lose. He's not a villain. He's just the antagonist, even though he is trying to protect his house. So like, it can go either way. Anyway, my point is, the first two Home Alone films are the best.